My name is Matt Clark. I'm the family pastor here. If you will turn to Psalm 78:1, we'll get to that in a moment. But as a result of today's message, we will understand the importance of the next generation and what we need to do so that every generation can have hope. But first, we need to play a game. So, I want to ask you, what generation is that from? So here's, before you answer that question, you kind of need to know the generation. So we've got the list of generations up there, the lost generation, which is a generation that has obviously passed. Although Nabi Tajima was the last surviving person known to have been born in the 19th century, died in 2018. She was 117 years old from the lost generation. The greatest generation, or the GI generation, today, there's estimated to be around 75,000 centenarians. That's not a mythical creature. Centenarians living in the United States today. Silent, or the builder generation, that's the smallest generation in 100 years. They began life in harsh conditions. Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, the economic and political uncertainty. Then there's the baby boomers. The boomers are the longest living, largest generation in history. Is here for the boomers. Then there's Generation X. They're referred to as the latchkey kids because all their parents were taken off, right? But they develop strong survival skills and the ability to handle anything that comes their way. Odd fact is, there has been no president from the Generation X yet. Maybe there's. I also read that people say that's the coolest generation. Just so you know. Not that I'm influencing you. Generation Y, or the millennials. Millennials are the most educated generation of all time. That's what you have available to you at your fingertips. Generation Z, or Zoomers. Who's out there? Yeah. Listen to this. 89% of Gen Zers use YouTube at least once a week. 70% subscribe to Netflix, and 71% of Gen Zers would like to learn how to cook. Yeah, I mean, all right, I'm watching this. Hey, I need food. You know, that's kind of what they're doing. They're Generation Alpha. You don't even know about Alpha. I didn't even know about Alpha. That's the next generation. That's the anybody under age 9 is the Alpha. They are the first generation born entirely in the 21st century. Gen Alpha will interact mostly with peers online. These kids are also referred to as the glass generation because they're always in front of their glass fronted devices. That will be their main source of communication in the future. So what I want you to do is I want you to tell me which of these toys, childhood toys, you think is from what generation. So let's take a look at the first one. Which one do you think that is? Yeah, Rubik's Cube, yeah. All right, how about this one? Yeah, I forgot to put my interest down. I just realized that. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anybody online. That I totally just realized I didn't. But yes, I believe that was the boomers. I'm pretty sure that was the boomers. I'll remember the rest of them, I'm sure. Whew. Jesus, save me. Okay, next one. No. That is actually earlier than you think. I think that was the Silent Crew. Yeah, that's not X. No, yeah, it was earlier. As soon as I get home, I'll email you. Honey, if you're watching online, text me. No. All right, the next one. How about this one? Yes. Yeah, the Brats. Yeah, I don't even know what those things are. All right, next one. Yeah, that's as early as you can get. That's the lost generation. That's the stick hoop. Yeah, that's a thing. It's a hoop, and you use the stick to roll it. You never knew that. We didn't know. Let's bring it back. How about that one? That's Y or Z. Actually, when it was crazed. Y or Z, yeah. How about this one? Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Some of you are like, what in the world is that? They're push pops. They pop. I don't know, you push them and they pop. And the kids love it. It's like a fidget spinner kind of a thing. Yeah. Is there another one, Jerry? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, how about this one? No, that's earlier. That might have been the boomers. Yeah. I'll post this online on Facebook, on our Facebook account. I'll have the answers. I can't believe that. All right, next one. Or is that it? Okay, that's it. You can go back to that. You can go back to the next slide. Sorry, I was like, wait a minute. I should have, the answers were on a different one. We didn't have that. But I know your question. I know what you're thinking right now. Besides, Matt's a lame brain for not having the answers. But besides that one, you're thinking, who, Matt, besides me, besides you, cares about the next generation? And I want to tell you somebody very important that cares about your kids. Marketers care about your kids. Yeah, you may laugh, but yes. I was reading an article. It says, to effectively market to children, advertisers need to know what makes kids tick. With the help of well-paid researchers and psychologists, advertisers now have access to in-depth knowledge about children's developmental, emotional, and social needs at different ages. Using research that analyzes children's behaviors, fantasy lives, artwork, even their dreams, companies are able to craft sophisticated marketing strategies to reach your kids. They care deeply about your kid. Different reason than what we do. But as a result of this, the growing concern, there are questions and concerns about the ability of children, this is what they're questioning now, to understand the intent behind the advertisements rather than being manipulated by them. Some experts say that children don't understand persuasive intent until they are older. So cognitive structures are still being formed in the brain, making children more susceptible to external influences. One study from Educational Leadership found that children don't realize that athletes in television commercials are paid to promote products. They also believe that the children in the advertisements are real rather than paid actors. I mean, obviously they're real kids, but they think they're just watching real kids, not paid actors. And of course, they also are confused about advertisements and the news. But who isn't? Someone is intent about influencing the next generation. And we need to be paying attention to who that is. I think Satan is sneaky. If Satan walked up to you and said, hey, I want your kid, you'd be like, no, get the heck out of here, right? But let's suggest that you could make some hefty bank from parents if you sell to kids. Who cares about the consequences? Let's get the kids early, putting hope in things instead of God. That's what Satan would like to do. The next generation is being influenced. But you know who else is about the next generation and talked about the next generation and didn't sell them, but set them apart as an example? And you know, and you said it earlier, and that's Jesus. Mark 9 talks about how Jesus was traveling through the towns with his disciples. And they were doing all these miracles, and he was traveling through. And he basically wanted to grab them, separate them from all the crowd, because he wanted to be able to inform them something that he didn't want everyone else to know. So he's kind of walking along the side of the road and begins to tell them something. This was the first time in Mark 9 that he begins to reveal what was going to be happening in the future. And he says, I'm going to die, and then in 3 days I'll be back. He's basically laying the bomb on them, saying, I'm going to die for your sins. And they don't get it. They don't understand. It even says, the Bible says, they did not understand and were afraid to ask him about it. Okay, Jesus. I'm like, do you know what he's talking about? What is he saying? Don't ask. They got to town, And as they had continued to walk along the road, Jesus had asked them, hey, what were you guys talking about back there? And the Bible says they didn't want to tell him because they had been arguing about who was the greatest. Can you imagine? Hey, by the way, I'm going to die for your sins. Yeah, that's great, Jesus. Am I better than him? Who's greater, by the way? I mean, what'd you say again? You were going to what? So Jesus sat him down and he said, whoever wants to be first must become last. You must become a servant. That's what it means to be the greatest. To become last. So that's the setup in Matthew 9. Then we that's in the Bible here, and then we go backwards to Matthew 18. But chronologically, Mark is here, and Matthew 18 is here. So the continuation of that story is, Jesus then kind of answers how to become the greatest. He tells him that what do you need to do, but how do I do this now? Jesus answers. The problem wasn't the problem wasn't with their question. Who's the greatest? It was with their intention. See, they didn't ask. The disciples didn't say, how does James become the best James? How does Peter become the best Peter? It's, am I better than him? Am I better than her? Am I greater? It's this comparison and judgment. And we do that, right? We do that in our own life. We're not saying, how can I? And it's great to be great. You want to be the best at what you're doing, at your talents and your gifts and what you're producing and how you're helping people. Do it to the greatest. But it's when we start to go, I'm better than him, right? Yeah. So Jesus answers their question with a child. Matthew 18, 3-4 says, truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. He says, this is what I want from you. The very start of being the greatest is you have to become like one of these children. Jesus set the example before them because Jesus cared about the next generation as well. So who else cared about the next generation? Well, the people before us, those who came before us, our, in essence, ancestors, they cared. And that's where we jump into Psalm 78. So take a look in your Bibles there at Psalm 78. We're going to read 1-8 right there. And Psalm 78, 1-8 says, I give ear, O my people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. Basically, he says, my friends, he's trying to get your attention. My friends, I beg you to listen to what I'm about to teach you. Verse 2, I will open up my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings. It sounds like he's like, what is this mystical thing? What is this, a secret? Is this what do you mean? He said, I will utter dark sayings of old, things that we have heard and known that our fathers have told us. Basically, he's saying, I'm going to give you instructions and explain the mystery of what happened long ago. Verse 4, we will not hide from their children, but tell to the coming generation, the next generation. These are the things we learned from our ancestors, is what he's saying. We will tell them to the next generation. We won't keep them a secret. We can't afford to. And there are three things that he says. The glorious deeds of the Lord and his might and the wonders that he has done. The glorious deeds of the Lord and his might and the wonders that he has done. Verse 5 says, he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel. Basically, God gave his law to Jacob's descendants and the people of Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach their children. Listen to this. And he commanded our fathers to teach their children, the next generation might know them. Then the children yet unborn would arise and tell them to their children. That's 5 generations there. And here's the so that. So that they should set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments. Basically, trust and obey and remember what God has done. Because time, pursuit of self, enticements of the world, and distractions and possessions will attempt to erase what God has done. We can't allow this to happen. It seeps in every day into our culture and our life, into our individual lives. All of us do it. We allow it to just invade our space and our mind and our heart. And we need to remember what he has done. It's real easy. It's like, of course we need to do that. And some days you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But most days it's like, yeah, oh my goodness, I just got to get home. Right? Amidst the way, amidst that journey, just God, I know you're here. I want to remember what you have done. And I need to make sure that I'm communicating that I'm oozing that from the pores of my life to others in the next generation. Because when people finally realize the trouble that they've got themselves in, they're going to look for something. And I pray you're ready to pass down that hope. Verse 8 says, and that they should, here's the warning, that they should not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation whose heart was not steadfast, whose spirit was not faithful to God. I'm telling you, this is the warning he's sending, to be different from those before us who were stubborn, rebellious, and unfaithful. Now, I get it. That sometimes we are stubborn, unfaithful. It's not like, oh, you're out. All of us would be out in that sense. But it's staying there. You can go there. We visit there every once in a while. All of us do. But it's about, no, I can't stay here. I've got to come back to understanding what God has done and be able to fully grasp that. God cares deeply for the next generation, and he has entrusted us to pass the gospel on to them. So if we reference back to, unless you turn and become like a child, humble yourself like a child, when we think about that, basically Jesus was trying to say, there's some qualities here about this child that I want you to make sure you emulate. And there are 3 of them that I think we can take away from this. The first one is his adoration. That's the praiseworthy acts, the glorious deeds that line says of the 3 things. God is worthy of our adoration. And we need to have adoration of him instead of society. Marketers, culture, humanity, the world fights for your affection. And they want to be your idols. If we reference back to what Jesus is saying, he says, be like this child. As a kid, your parents were the bomb, right? Now, this is, when I'm referencing some relationship with parents here, obviously not everyone's relationship is the golden beauty that we hope it is, okay? But the norm is what I'm saying. And when you look to your parents, you're like, a child adores their, when they're young, they're like, ah. Daniel Friedline, I don't know if he's here this morning. Daniel Friedline was here with his daughter Everly. They were at the daddy-daughter dance, and they were back there. And I walk up, and Daniel's kind of standing there, and he's talking to Everly, and she goes, Daddy, you're the strongest. And he's like, whoa, and he gets all like that. And I'm like, I walk by, and I'm like, yeah, you are. You're the strongest. And she looks at me, and she says, you're a little man with no muscles. But guess what? That's how it should be. I mean, maybe I can get some more muscles. But that's how we should be with God. Daddy, you're the best. You're the strongest. I adore you. Everyone else, muscleless. And Daniel Friedline, I will fight you later outside. That's all I'm saying. The question is, our children are watching. Who do we adore? What are our idols in our life that they see in us? Do we communicate his praiseworthy acts, his glorious deeds to our kids in adoration? Because sometimes when I think about that, it's painful when I think about my own life with my own child. Ooh, boy, did I do that? Do I do it now? It's not that I have to say, oh, I failed. It's never going to happen. No, start now. Do it now. There's always a new day. Second part, there's his adoration and his ability. This is about his strength, his power, his might. God is trusted because of his ability. God's ability can be trusted. His shoulders are big. He's got bigger muscles than Daniel Friedline. See, we want to be self-reliant, right? I got this. We take pride in what we do. I am a self-sufficient person. We march for all these things that we want to do, and we stand proud. I got this. No one worry about me. Dependence on him instead of self. That's what we need. We can't handle it. Our shoulders are not big enough. And his ability, his strength, his power, his might. And he wants us to rely on him. Like a newborn child is to their parents. Kids need everything. They can't do anything for themselves. A baby giraffe learns how to walk within a few hours. I'm kind of ashamed about some of your kids. I've seen them. Still not walking. It's about his strength, his power, his might, not our abilities, not what you can do, not what you know, not your job, not your talents. None of that. It's your dependence on him. John 15:5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Not in our ability, but in his power. And the question is, does the next generation know who we depend on? Do they see things in our life that we're depending on? Our job, our talents, our personalities, whatever, our character, whatever. That's what. No. No, I'm willing to answer, it's him that I depend on, because nothing here can do it. Do they know that we are weak, and without all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present God, because in him we are strengthened through our weakness? That's the beauty. That's how we do it. That's how we muster up the next day. God, I'm going to depend on you today because I don't feel like even adoring you. I don't feel like adoring anybody. But I need your power. Number 3, his adoration, his ability, and his accomplishments. And the wonders he has done. See, God breathed life into humans. He's a creative being. He created the universe, set it in motion. He set in motion the principles which we should live. And as a child, there is a wonder in what our parents can do. And it's not in things. Children don't have that. So we have to have identity in him instead of self. Kids don't have an identity. Younger kids don't have an identity in possessions and accomplishment. They're not walking up saying, I feel pretty secure about the $28 and change that I have in my piggy bank right now. Yeah. My Razor scooter makes me feel complete. That's my possession. No. Kids have an identity in the relationship with their parents, not in their possessions and their accomplishments. It's in mom and dad, just like we should have that same identity in him, in God, and what he has done, and not in the things in our life and what we own. what we have. As we get older, we are told, as we get older, what happens is we break from that childhood and we're told that we're not enough, that it matters what you wear, what kind of car you drive, and how much your house is worth. That's what we begin to fall into the trap of. So then we say, well, I guess it's stuff. Yeah, we'll do stuff now. That's my identity. Because everyone else tells you that. Don't believe it. It's not it. That's why Jesus was talking about the child. Because that child is still in that position of going, I adore you. I depend on you. And my identity is in you. What you say matters, not what everyone else says. But as a child, our sense of worth is in the relationship of our parents, not in those possessions. As adult, we slowly lose the childlike ability to wonder sometimes what he does. Our identity slowly turns into our belongings and our achievements. And it should be in who he is and his power, not in our possessions. And so the question is, does the next generation see that your identity is in the wonders of God or in the achievement of you? So we have to reevaluate every time. At this point, the band can come up. We have to help them understand who he is and what he has done. When we do that, that gives us hope. That gives them hope. Because when they understand what has been done, you start to get a glimpse of the power of who God is. The next generation is important to God. So we need to tell them the glorious deeds of the Lord and his might and the wonders that he has done. Because we cannot find hope in a lost world. We cannot find hope in our strength. We cannot find hope in what we know, in what we own, or what we accomplish. The next generation, according to that list, is the millennial and the Zoomers and the Alphas. And if you're worried about the leaders of the future, then we have to make sure we become like children in our faith so that we're communicating and living the way that we're giving the example to them. When we live like we adore him and we depend on him and we have identity in him, we can't help but communicate the hope in Christ. Because the next generation is going to be our future doctors, pastors, teachers, plumbers, inventors, entrepreneurs, military, leaders. They're the next. Some are going to be on TV. They're going to be social media influencers. And even the next president. Should we be speaking into them? Should we? Yes. Absolutely. Shouldn't we be pointing them in the right direction? Yes. Shouldn't we be leading by our examples? Be careful when you say yes to that one, because that's the tough one, right? Yes. One way is to pray for our future and the future of our leaders and the kids. So this is what we're going to do. This morning, we're going to kind of end the service a little bit different. We have the kids set up, the elementary and the preschoolers, and they're going to come in. First of all, as we talk about the next generation, we're kind of leading into, I'm telling you, come tonight or Wednesday, because you'll want to see what we're doing. I'm not preaching this to say, come give your money. This has nothing to do with that. The gospel is still the gospel in a straw hut. It doesn't matter. Okay? But what we can do, what can we do to, what do we do when people come into our house? We clean it up. At least the foyer. Your bedroom may be a mess. I get it. But let's make sure that this place just reeks of all these things that says we value the families coming in here. We value the next generation that's coming into this room. So what we have is the kids are going to come in a second. I want to give you instructions because everyone is going to participate in this. Don't be scared. The children are going to come forward and they're going to place, they have brought piggy banks of their money that they have. Some of them have done chores, some of them have done miscellaneous things to give towards the next campaign for the building and that kind of stuff. And they're going to come in and bring that forward. And then they're going to stay right here. And then, so you, Don, you can go ahead and have them come in as I'm talking. And then after that, what we're going to do is I'm going to have every student who's a teenager, 6th through 12th grade, you're going to come join them. And after that, if you're basically 25 below, you are the next generation. I mean, there's some, 25 to 30s as well. But I want you to come down here in a second and stand with these kids because we are going to pray. We're going to pray for the next generation a blessing. Do it. Do it. Yes. You got it right there. He's like, I don't want to give this stuff up. No. Here, I'll move these back. Come on in, guys. What's up? That's all right. It's whatever you got. It's a cheerful giving. Isn't this beautiful? So, if you are 25 and below, I want you to stand up right now. Just go ahead and stand up. If you're 25 and below, stand up. And that's going to be everyone. I know. There's a lot of you much older than that. 25 and below. So, I want you guys to make your way over here. If your brother or sister is up here, come stand next to them. Go home. 25 and under. Come right up here. Because after that, parents, I want you to go to your kids. All parents, stand up. If you're a parent of one of these kids in here, I want you to stand up and go towards that kid. Now, the rest of you, I'm going to implore you, just stand up, push the chairs back, because we're just going to huddle. So I want the body of Christ to surround the next generation. So everyone, if you're not comfortable getting too close, that's okay. I understand that. But if you can and you have the ability, if you guys, Angel, if you push kind of some of the chairs away here, I want you to stand up and come and surround these families. Come on. I want you to touch a shoulder. If you're okay with that, touch a shoulder of a family near you because we want to pray for them. It's going to be a little messy and a little loud. That's okay. That's the beauty of family. Now, as you're coming forward, Aaliyah's going to sing a song, and during that song, I want you to pray for the people that you're surrounding. Pray for the next generation. So Lee's going to lead that, and then I'm going to close with a blessing. So you begin to pray for their future and how you can participate in that future. Go ahead and pray right now.